Have you ever wondered how a war could span over a century? How the echoes of a single conflict could reverberate through the years, marking the lives of multiple generations? It might seem like an absurd notion to fathom, but such a historical event did occur, not very long ago in the grand scheme of history. It's a story that is both enigmatic and intriguing, one that will captivate you with its complexity and the enormity of its implications. Welcome to the saga of the 100 Years' War, a tumultuous period that forever reshaped the landscapes of England and France, leaving a lasting impact on their socio-political structures, cultures, and collective memory. The 100 Years' War, despite its misleading name, was not a single continuous conflict that saw men continuously drawing swords and shedding blood for over 100 years. This concept might have made for a riveting novel, but the reality was more scattered, more unpredictable, and perhaps even more captivating in its own way. Instead, it was a series of intermittent wars, skirmishes, and periods of tense peace that spanned from the mid-14th century to the mid-15th. It was a time when men lived by the sword and died by it, when alliances were forged and broken, when kings and those who sought the throne played a high-stakes game of power and politics. The war's roots can be traced back to the death of Charles IV of France in 1328. Upon his death, the French crown passed to Philip VI, marking the beginning of the Valois dynasty. This dynasty would go on to rule France for a significant period, leaving their mark on the annals of history. But across the Channel, things were not so straightforward. Edward III of England had a different view, a view that would ignite the flames of conflict and set the stage for the 100 Years' War. Edward III's mother was Charles IV's sister, and he believed that this kinship gave him a legitimate claim to the French throne. This belief wasn't born out of mere whimsy, but was rooted in the prevailing notions of inheritance and royal succession. Edward III perceived the crown of France as part of his rightful inheritance, a treasure that he was determined to secure for himself. However, the French rejected his claim, citing Salic law, which prohibited inheritance through the female line. This law, an ancient one, was part of their tradition and legal system, and they stood by it, refusing to recognize Edward III's claim to the throne. This rejection was not merely a diplomatic maneuver but a blatant denial of Edward III's aspirations and believed rights. It was a slight, a wound to his pride that Edward III would not forget or forgive. The seeds of discord had been sown, and the stage was set for a conflict that would span over a century. A battle of wills was about to ignite into a war that would consume generations, forever altering the course of history, shaping the destinies of two great nations, and leaving a legacy that continues to echo to this day. It was the beginning of the 100 Years' War, a saga filled with tales of bravery, treachery, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. In 1337, the tide of history turned as tensions escalated into open warfare. A time of unrest was upon the world as King Edward III of England boldly declared himself the rightful heir to the French throne. This audacious claim lit the spark that would ignite the first phase of what would come to be known as the 100 Years' War. The world watched, shocked and fascinated, as Edward III stretched his hand across the English Channel, staking his claim to the crown of France. The echoes of his declaration reverberated through the grand halls of European courts, sending shockwaves of disbelief and apprehension. The audacity of his claim challenged the very foundation upon which the medieval world stood. It was a direct challenge to the status quo, a dare thrown at the feet of the French king. This phase of the 100 Years' War, known as the Edwardian Era War, was named after the English monarch who, with his claim, had thrown Europe into turmoil. Edward III was known for his military prowess and strategic acumen. His armies were disciplined and his generals were capable. All these factors combined to create a formidable fighting force that would make its mark on history. The war was marked by significant English victories at Crécy and Poitiers. These were not just battles, they were turning points that would shape the course of history. Crécy, fought in 1346, was a testament to Edward's military genius. It was a battle that saw the English longbowmen decimate the French knights, changing the face of warfare forever. Poitiers, fought a decade later, was an even more resounding English again. Edward's strategic brilliance shone as he used the landscape to his advantage, trapping the French forces and securing a decisive victory that solidified his hold over key French territories. These victories did not come easily though. Behind each triumphant battle cry were countless sacrifices, an ocean of spilled blood, and the indomitable spirit of the English soldiers. But the year 1360 brought with it a respite from the relentless onslaught of war. A tentative peace was brokered, A ceasefire was agreed upon, and for a brief moment, the echoes of war fell silent. This period was a chance for kings and kingdoms to lick their wounds, for the land to heal, for the people to catch their breath. But like the calm before the storm, this peace was short-lived. The ceasefire was merely a strategic pause, a momentary respite before the next round of conflict. It was a game of power and pride, and the stakes were higher than ever. The 100 Years' War was far from over. It was just the beginning. A new phase was set to begin, a new chapter in the grand saga of medieval warfare. In the end, the seeds of conflict sown in 1337 had germinated into a fully fledged war that would span over a century. 1360 marked the end of the first act, but the peace that followed was short-lived. The 100 Years' War, a testament to the indomitable human spirit and the devastating cost of unchecked ambition, was far from over. The second phase of the war, known as the Caroline War, commenced in 1369. This significant chapter in the history of warfare was not just a mere extension of the conflict, but a whole new ballgame that shifted the scales of power dramatically. Its name, the Caroline War, echoes in the annals of history as a testament to the courage and resilience of both sides, and the harsh realities of war. This vivid phase of warfare was initiated in a time marked by discord and the yearning for change. In the year 1369, it was a period rife with uncertainty, the world teetering on the precipice of monumental events. In the shadowy backdrop of this chaos, the Caroline War ignited like a spark, setting into motion a series of events that would irrevocably alter the course of history. The French, under the leadership of Charles V, played an instrumental role in shaping this period of conflict. A formidable leader, Charles V was not a man to be trifled with. His astute mind and strategic brilliance the cornerstones of the French resurgence during this time. His leadership was characterized by his unfaltering resolve and an indomitable spirit that inspired his troops to strive for victory, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. Under his dynamic guidance, the French regained much of the territory lost in the first phase of the war. This was not just a testament to the military prowess of the French, but also a reflection of Charles V's strategic genius. The regained territories were like pieces of a puzzle, each one systematically fitting into his grand plan of reclaiming France's lost glory. This was a period that marked a distinctive shift in the trajectory of the war. A time of French resurgence, it was more than just the reclaiming of lost territories. It was a revival of French spirit, a resurgence of their collective will to fight, to protect their homeland. It was a time when the French nation rallied behind their leader, Charles V, to reclaim their destiny. At the same time, the English were gripped by a political crisis. The once formidable English Empire found itself battered by internal strife and instability. This was a time of great uncertainty for the English, on the brink of chaos, their cohesive unity shattered by the winds of political turmoil. Yet, the English, despite their internal crisis, did not allow their predicament to deter them from their path. They fought with the same valor and courage that had underscored their initial victories, their spirit undeterred by the adversities they faced. Their resilience in the face of crisis was commendable, a testament to their indomitable spirit. Indeed, the Caroline War was a period of French resurgence and English political crisis. Both periods marked by distinctive shifts in the flow of the war, each phase a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. And thus, this second phase of the war, started in 1369, was a time that completely transformed the dynamics of the conflict. The third and final phase of the war, recognized in history as the Lancastrian War, initiated in the year of 1417. This was a period riddled with military strategy, brave warriors, and high stakes. The war was led by an influential figure, Henry V of England, a king known for his courage, formidable leadership, and indomitable spirit. He was a king who wouldn't back down from a challenge, and was always ready to lay claim to what he believed was rightfully his. In this scenario, it was the French throne. The throne of France, a symbol of power and respect, had been contested for centuries, and Henry V was the latest in a long succession of claimants. The throne was more than just a piece of furniture. It was a symbol of authority, dominance, and the ability to govern an entire nation. Henry V, driven by ambition and a sense of honor, decided to make a bold move, one that would mark the beginning of a new chapter in this ongoing war. He renewed the claim to the French throne, causing a stir among allies and enemies alike. The action was audacious, to say the least, but it was a testament to Henry's resolve and determination. As the war waged on, the English forces came to a significant juncture in the year 1415. At a place called Agincourt, they were poised to face off against their French counterparts in a battle that would go down in history. The English forces were led by fearless men who had sworn their loyalty to their king and their country. They were men who were ready to risk everything for victory. The Battle of Agincourt was a test of not just military prowess but also of strategy, courage, and tenacity. The English forces were up against a formidable enemy, but they were determined to emerge victorious. They were driven by a sense of duty, a sense of honor, and their king's claim to the French throne. Despite the odds stacked against them, the English forces scored a notable victory at Agincourt. It was a win that boosted their morale and strengthened their resolve. The victory came at a heavy price, but it was a price the English forces were willing to pay for the sake of their king and their country. However, as the dust settled on the battlefield, a stark realization set in. The war was far from over. The road to the French throne was still fraught with danger and uncertainty. This victory, as significant as it was just one step in a journey that still held many challenges. The weeks, months, and years that followed Agincourt were filled with battles, both won and lost. There were moments of victory and moments of despair, but through it all, the resolve of the English forces never wavered. The war continued, marked by the unyielding determination of a king and his army, the relentless pursuit of a throne, and the unwavering resolve of a nation. It was a war that was far from over, but for the English, it was a war that they were determined to win, no matter what the cost. The war finally concluded in 1453 with the French, led by Charles VII, recapturing Bordeaux and effectively expelling the English from France, save for the port of Calais. As the sun set on the final battlefield, an era that had stretched for an agonizingly long 100 years finally drew to a close. The dust of conflict settled on a landscape irrevocably scarred by the ceaseless tussle of power. The 100 Years' War had ended, but the echoes of its fury would reverberate through the corridors of time, leaving an indelible imprint on the history of two great nations. It is essential to understand that the 100 Years' War was far from being a singular self-contained war. Rather, it was a protracted saga of conflicts, a tumultuous series of battles that spanned over a century. This epic began under the clouded auspices of Edward III's ambitious claim to the French throne in 1337. From the first cries of battle to the final sighs of relief, the war was a testament to time's inexorable march and humanity's relentless quest for power. Each phase bore a distinct character that set it apart from the others. The Edwardian Era War was the opening act, a bloody that set the stage for the drama to follow. The Caroline War, named after King Charles V of France, was a turning point, and a brutal reminder of the volatility of power. The Lancastrian War, the final act, saw the tide finally turn in favor of the French, culminating in the pivotal recapture of Bordeaux in 1453. These battles were more than just clashes of armies. They were seismic shifts in the balance of power, cataclysmic events that led to devastating losses and surprising victories. They left scars on the land, forever altering the physical, political, and social landscapes of England and France. The 100 Years' War saw the rise and fall of kings, the ebb and flow of power, and the evolution of warfare. It was a crucible where nations were forged and leaders were made. It was a war that spanned generations, a war that bore witness to some of the most significant in history. It was a war that changed the face of two nations forever. This was the 100 Years' War, a war as complex as it was lengthy, as transformative as it was destructive. An era of unending strife, a testament to the indomitable human spirit. It was a story of resilience and determination, of power and ambition, a tale of a century that changed two nations and indeed the world. This was a period that bore witness to the fullest range of emotions, from the heights of joy to the depths of despair, from the thrill of victory to the agony of defeat. This was the 100 Years' War, a war that was as complex as it was lengthy, as transformative as it was destructive. It's a testament to the indomitable human spirit, a story of resilience and determination, of power and ambition. A tale of a century that changed two nations and indeed the world.